The Russian colonial army marched on the now Mexican port of Santa Rosa, but was repelled. The Russian Tsar expected this to be a simple and quick war for colonial expansion, forgetting that the Mexican population was not exactly prepared to be conquered by one European empire, while they are also fighting for their recently acquired independence. Some mere months later, a huge Mexican army arrived to reinforce the front. The emboldened Mexicans then hastily marched on Mikhailgrad, defeating the small Russian garrison. Seeing this wouldn't be an easy war, Peter significantly increased taxes in order to assemble a new army to land in Mexican California. By 1705, this army has gathered for their voyage in the port settlement of Novorossiysk. Despite landing back in Mikhailgrad and having some limited successes, the Mexican army was able to outmaneuver the Russians, defeating this force too. In 1708, another army attempted to land in California. But the landing was repelled by the enemy. Recognizing that the Californian War was a lost cause, the captive Russian colonial authorities have signed a peace treaty on Russia's behalf, restoring the pre-war status quo borders. Peter was livid, but he now had a new problem: the increasingly unhappy people. Due to the ridiculously high taxation, the Russian people increasingly had fewer options when it came to making a living and food purchases. At one point, the people have even begun rioting in Moscow, burning down some administrative buildings. To calm down the situation, Peter agreed to significantly reduce taxes, making them lower than before the Californian endeavor. In January of 1710, news have arrived in the Russian court that the Polish army has done what was considered impossible. They took the fortress city of Königsberg. For Peter and many officers in the Russian army, this presented an excellent opportunity to clean away the sense of personal humiliation after the decisive defeat in the Californian War. Seeing this opportunity, Peter began making preparations for a war with Poland while they were distracted with Prussian forces. In June of the same year, the Russian sovereign ordered his troops to march to Warsaw. If this war were to be successful, then it would allow Russia not only to humiliate Poland, but also to possibly take Riga, giving Russia a major port on the Baltic Sea. Taking Kiev would allow Russia to completely control the flow of trade up and down the Dnieper River. Kiev had fallen without a fight, as the bulk of the Polish army was stuck fighting the Germans in the west. Later in August, the Russians took Minsk, which the Poles had captured a few decades prior. By November, Riga was taken, also without a fight. With the three main objectives having been accomplished, the Russian army began marching across Poland towards Warsaw. In the southwestern direction, the Russians have taken Lvov. In 1712, realizing that they cannot win against both Prussia and Russia at the same time, they signed a peace treaty with the Prussians, abandoning all of their hard-won conquests in order to turn all of their attention to repel the Russian armies. But that did not stop the Russians from surrounding the Polish capital. Despite Polish efforts, Warsaw was now under siege. Knowing that they have no other choice, the Polish nobility has agreed to peace with Russia, giving Russia large territories. However, the Swedish king was not happy with such a strong Russia right next to his frontier.